happy Tuesday. And I have a guest today who is all the way from America, but someone I've known for so long that I'm so glad and excited that he's arrived. So I'm going to ask Felix Nater to tell you who Felix Nater is.
Carolyn, this is exciting because in the beginning, when we first connected, it was all via social media. And so this is an opportunity for us to continue that dialogue. Who am I? So I'm a guy that has been riding on top of people's shoulders for the last, I would say, couple of years and connecting with wonderful people in my experiences. Nothing that I have done you can attribute to me having done alone without someone supporting me or guiding me. I'm someone who is self-taught in my industry from my experiences as a United States Postal Inspector, and also my experiences with the Army and the Army Reserves, retiring as a Sergeant Major. I love life.
Felix, can I stop you there? I'm going to slow you down because you've got so much to tell us. Yes. The Sergeant Major bit, explain that one to us.
That was another interesting part of my life. So I joined the Army back in 1967. It seems like 100 years ago. After finishing active service, I hated it. It was during the Vietnam War. I left with a bitter taste about military life. Never wanted anything to do with it. And then 5 years later, I stumbled on an Army recruiter in a park with my oldest son, who convinced me to rejoin the Army. But I said, I'll do the Army Reserve route, not the active Army route. And that was 26, almost 30 years ago. Looking back, isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. The Sergeant Major role is an important one because, as you know, my son held that position last couple of years. And to look at him in stature, he's quite small. He's very athletic to look at. But compared to some of the really beefy characters that are in the Army, he's quite small. So to hold the rank of Sergeant Major is one real level of command.
It is an interesting, it is interesting for us because that is the senior rank in the enlisted community. And to become one, you're such a small percentile of the total Army. You really have to know your stuff, as they say, know your stuff and demonstrate that you know your stuff and to have the support of your chain of command. And those evaluations have to speak boldly of your potential and your capability and your deliverables. So, and it's not about the rank or the power that you have. It's the influence that you have to bring people to you that need your leadership, guidance, coaching, and counseling.
Absolutely.
Oh, and then, by the way, Carolyn, that I took into my civilian job as a postal inspector and helped in that realm integrate my Army and my civilian skill sets to combine in the creation of me.
Yes. I would have thought that the postal security level that you are at, because you're dealing with information, and that's about data information, and today it's all about data. So how do you see yourself in terms of the digital era? Would you say that you're somebody that's comfortable with it, a starter, or somebody that's a signature because you're used to having your name written there and on Twitter and LinkedIn? Or are you somebody that's seasonal and can sort of move in between any of them?
I am very comfortable in my field, and I am very comfortable in understanding why there's such a challenge with cybersecurity. I connected with a firm that provides cybersecurity consulting services, and we have a natural bond because the problem isn't the policies, plans, and procedures. The problem is how we train the workforce to understand what they should be doing. Not volumes and volumes of instructions, but what they should be doing and why and how.
Yeah.
And there's a connection between cybersecurity and workplace violence prevention. It's about the why, the what, the how, and the what. So it connects very nicely. It makes sense to me.
So the why, what is your why, Felix Nater?
So what is my why? So my why is being the best human being that I can possibly be, because that connects me with the being above in leading the life that he expects me to live for him, for myself, for my family, and potentially for others that I come in contact with. I want to be a person that doesn't have to speak a lot to be appreciated. I want to be felt. My essence to touch you.
Sounds wonderful. I remember you being that way on Twitter, and to have a virtual presence on Twitter was difficult in 140 characters. I think they've increased it now. But I remember you being so approachable and lovable and very, very high communication skills.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the things that my coach said for me to do was to use social media to dismantle any negative impressions they may have about my work through an approachable air, through an approachable communication and relationship that drew people to me that were interested in what was going on in their lives and felt confident and comfortable talking to me about it.
So what's, in terms of the work you do, where do you live and work?
Yes, currently I live in Concord, which is a suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. I started out on Long Island, New York, and they gave me a great, start off opportunity and moved to the Charlotte area about 14 years ago, but still operating out of New York, New Jersey, and Charlotte.
And are they very different, Felix, in terms of culture and
I
violence?
think so. I think from a cultural perspective, I think each one of our wonderful 50 states are unique. They have their own culture, if you would. New York was necessary for me because it gave me the confidence to be who I am today. Being here in North Carolina, it's a totally different realm. I get to enjoy what I know without being stressed. Very calm, very enjoyable, very pleasant. It's a matter of fact. I don't have to sell anymore. I attract.
Yes, I remember the days when I used to there was one favorite that I had with two chimpanzees on a tree branch, and the other tail had gone around the mate. And that was something that I use as an image for attracting new clients.
The intangibles are more important than the tangibles. Knowing what to do through consistency, persistency, adaptability, flexibility, resilience is a whole lot more important than grabbing it and then saying it's mine. Because now you got to figure out how you're going to keep it. So without the intangibles, anything we do in life is a zero or a zero sum.
In terms of the work that you've done over the years for workplace violence and prevention and security, have you faced violence towards you as an owner?
Have I what?
Have you faced violence towards you as an owner?
That's a very good story, a good question. I have not. And I think the reason why is because of my approach to people. I don't go into this pointing a finger or adjudicating or making judgment calls. I go into it to assess and evaluate, collect information, and then if it's an employee situation, render the report to the client. If it's a client situation, have a conversation and recommend my risk mitigation recommendations. I don't tell them what to do. I merely remind them that after our conversation, if it goes the wrong way, I may be called upon to testify.
That's good.
It's influential.
It is highly influential.
Yes. So I've never felt uncomfortable when people get angry with me during that process. I know they're not angry with me personally. So I just let it roll off my back like a duck and handle the situation from a standpoint of how do I make it better for the person? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with taking the verbal abuse, but how do I make it better for the person who is in the situation that I'm not in?
Yes. I think that's how I was attracted to a lot of your tweets, because I'd gone through a phase working in Ford Motor Company, doing what we call a customer care training. And then being part of what we call Chamber of Commerce here in Swansea and Wales, I was asked to write for confrontation in a difficult situation within the workplace. And because I am a fitness professional of a long standing, I knew the elements of getting really high adrenaline, getting anxious, getting angry, all the emotions. But I also, in terms of tuition, was able to bring them and calm them down so that at the end of a workout, as it were, they would virtually feel relaxed and go to sleep nearly. So I wrote this module as part of a 3-module program that we won a customer care training award, national training award. And we had to apply the theory to a workplace, which was a castle bingo, which was a bingo playing place with callers. And I had the most fun ever training new people, new staff that were starting a new job that didn't understand what it was about the internal customer, external customer, or the difficult customer. So I think when you were tweeting, I understood and I associated a lot of your philosophy.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. It's all about making the connection.
Yes.
It's all about imparting what I know to an audience I don't know, and then hoping that it falls in someone's heart and mind that can make use of the information.
Yes. So growing up, Felix, in terms of where you've explained, you were in the army, you left, you became a reserve, you've been in the postal service. Who would you say was most influential in that era?
So there were so many people that were helpful to me along the way. But Jim Phillips, and may he rest in peace if he's not with us, I've lost contact with him, stumbled into a gentleman in the building that he resided on Long Island, who happened to be my uncle. And they became very friendly. And my uncle said, I have a nephew who is out of the army, and he works for the Postal Service and as a letter carrier back then. And is there anything that you might be able to do for him? And Jim Phillips said, have him give me a call. That individual connection opened up my world, because after meeting him, the opportunities came one after the other. So in terms of that connection, that influenced other connections that were equally as bountiful in their desires to help and support me. Luke Bassett was my security officer in charge, right? Al O'Neill was my postal inspector team leader in Brooklyn, New York. The list of people, and then a young man that I happened to mentor along the way became my boss as I was walking out the door, to become my supervisor in the violence interdiction team. So there are so many people in my life, not to mention my wife, not to mention my family, not to mention my organizations that I belong to. I have never, ever had a wrongful association with someone because I drew the relationship. I was the one who directed what I wanted it to be. So I always elevated to the highest level. So it's hard to give you one specific person, because even in my army life, Dick Holt, Bill Kiley, General Barker, General Boyd, these people pulled me up and said, you're a superstar and we're going to prove it. It's a matter of relationships. Yes.
And I would agree with that. You are a superstar.
I remember I'm Catholic, and my wife and I are Catholic. Well, we didn't get married in a Catholic church. This is a great story. So we go to our local church, and we asked the minister, the pastor rather, to schedule us to have our vows renewed. And he tells us, after serving the church all of these years, he tells us, unless you were married in the Catholic church, and we can verify all of your, I forget the terminology that he used, we can verify all your sacraments that you've taken, we're not going to allow you to do that. So I says, well, I'll tell you what, I went to a Catholic school all my life. I'll give you the name of the school and you do your own research. Well, he called us in and he says, Felix Nater, I spoke to a nun who was a young nun and you were one of her students. And she said this about Felix Nater, the greatest student I ever had. He says, no more questions. When I finished with her, she had given me an earful about Felix Nater.
So your reputation had gone before you.
It is important that it precedes you. It is important that consistency, again, intangible, consistency, it reflects who you are. You know, you can't be a bad guy one day and be a good guy the next day. You know, you have to be one or the other, but you have to be consistent. God made good and God made the bad. You've got to choose. We all have a purpose in life, and that purpose has to be sustained by the individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Felix, where would you say you are happiest today? In terms of who you are and what you've achieved, how is your today happy?
Confidence. I think I told you about my ideal clients are on their way to me right now. I have the confidence that if you go to my website and you have an issue that connects with my information on your website, you're going to call me. There's no need for me to market to you because I don't know who you are. I'm not in the business of quantity. I'm in the business of quality. And when you call me, I pretty much know you've verified that you want that connection with me. So I'm happy most in knowing that I am confident in who I am. My integrity dictates my behavior. It is my watchword. So when I have a relationship with someone, it is authentic. I am open to scrutiny, and that scrutiny dictates my behavior. Yeah. I don't ever want to present to you information that you can't use. And I don't want to present an image that you would feel uncomfortable with. So consistency, persistency, and integrity are very important.
Absolutely. And your happy place, where is it?
My happy place is right here in my home office, where, like I'm hearing now, I hear the sounds of family. I hear the music, the conversations that I didn't have when I was working out of an office out of Long Island, New York, or when I was on the road so often. So these past 10 months have really gotten me a chance to see who Felix Nater is. And I love being interrupted by my wife when she knocks on the door and says, let's have a lunch. I love being interrupted when my youngest daughter, who's home from school because of COVID, says, can I use the car, Dad? I love those interactions. I love being able to go through my office mess that I've had over these last 18 years, that over the last year I was able to reconcile and find how many mistakes I made in not calling people back who had an opportunity for me, or not following up on an opportunity that I could have made for myself. I love finding the inadequacies in me that make me a stronger person.
I was told this morning, funnily enough, that we learn more to make decisions through negativity because I'm a positive thinker. And I suppose today, you and I might not have met online. We would have known each other anyway, but we wouldn't have had this chance. But through persistency and consistency and communication, here we are.
Here we are. And your desire to communicate, because, you know, there are a lot of misconceptions that are created, designed by people who are dreamers. Oh, the introduction is the most important part of a relationship. Bull. If you look at me and you don't like Black people, there's no connection that's going to go any further than that. So this notion that the first few minutes determine where you're going to go, they're true, but you got to be honest that if you don't feel comfortable doing business with a woman or with a man of color or with someone who has an accent, there's a bridge of communication that cannot be surmounted. So there's a lot to life that requires stability, peace of mind, honesty, sincerity, and stop the pitches. You'll hear me, and you probably have read, I don't like fads. They come and go. I like consistency. Yeah. You know, this thing, COVID-19, everybody is focusing in on what they need to do about the new normal. Bull. It's a temporary phase that we're all going to go through, and we're going to come out of it a different way. And this pitch should not be generally. The pitch should be personally. Your company, your situation, and your needs.
What would you say to people listening to this, Felix, in terms of COVID-19 and a business and family man? How do you encourage people that, yes, it's a passing problem that we have? Over to you.
So I want them to get new normal out of their vernacular, out of their jargon. I want them to start looking at where they are right now as an interim phase or an interim stage of challenges and situations they need to wrap their arms around and move forward. I need for them to stop thinking the old way and look at the new way of moving forward because of this thing called COVID-19. And here's why. You have me, Felix Nater, at home, surrounded by a situation I may not feel comfortable, like I'm a battered spouse. Now you've got me contained for 8, 9, 10 months around an angry husband who has access to me, whereas before I had the freedom of movement. I may be a unhappy person at home because I love interacting and I love what's going on. I may be unhappy because when I return to work, when you let me back to the workplace and discover you don't need me anymore, so you reassigned or created a new position for me. So how you handle defiance and defiant behavior, argumentative, confrontational, disobeying orders will be how you are perceived as a flexible, adaptable organization. Because you can't use the old way of disciplining because there are going to be too many incidents of defiance, angry people. How dare you single me out as having COVID? Why are you mandating that I wear a vest? Why are you isolating me? Why doesn't anybody come visit me at my home to check up on me? What's going on with you people? A phone call is all that you think that suffice? No, I want that connection. So adapting leadership skills, leadership principles are going to be very, very important in making this transition along the way that shows and reveals who we really are as a company.
What a wonderful answer. I'm going to finish on that answer because,
well, thank you.
Because that's one of the best answers given in terms of COVID-19 because of the fear value. And what you said is very grounding, very centraling, and very, very calm and connecting. So connectivity really is what I hear you say. Always connecting.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. My wife has a saying, when she and I have a disagreement and I give a response to overcome the intensity that's going to ensue, she says, stop practicing on me. Stop practicing on me. It's very important that you prove your capabilities around your loved ones so that when you go into the outside world, there's that confidence level that dictates the fact that you know what you're talking about and you know how it's going to look like at the other end.
Yeah. Felix, I wish you safe time and to stay strong and well. And I've really, really enjoyed, because everything you say, they're all what I call nuggets of a real experience and heartfelt. And thank you for that.
And thank you for having me. I really was looking forward to having this conversation with you. For nothing else, just to be with you and your company. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Felix.
You bet.